Today on Investigate TV Plus, a sprawling suburb finds itself in the middle of a First Amendment fight.
You would arrest someone just for walking through a group of people?
Yes. If they were walking with a Nazi flag, with this ordinance, we would arrest them. Palestinian flag, we would arrest them.
We examine how one city backtracked on a law critics say choked free speech and explore another accusation of government overreach.
Plus, one family highlights critical training after the sudden death of their son.
Just because he's passed away, his spirit continues to live.
We reveal how they're saving lives in their son's honor.
Then, big city kids take a walk on the wild side.
It just lets you figure out many different things that you haven't usually done.
We take you to the campsite, giving some students their first up-close experience in the great outdoors.
In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus.
The First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution protects our most basic rights to free expression. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm T. Chappelle. In just 45 words, it guarantees Americans have 5 key protections: the freedom to practice religion, freedom of speech, a free press, freedom to assemble, in other words, peacefully protest, and finally, freedom to petition, which gives Americans the right to criticize and even sue the government.
Those rights are at the center of a legal fight taking place in an Atlanta suburb after leaders briefly criminalized where free speech can happen.
In April of 2025, Sandy Springs City Council members approved 3 ordinances, one of which prohibits protesters from blocking driveways during demonstrations. The most hotly debated one restricted free speech within 8 feet of someone with opposing views.
This feels like an overreach for me.
The council's been put in a very uncomfortable position here.
And if you don't help us out, chaos will ensue. You've got to help us out.
At the time, the chief of police said the ordinance would allow officers to keep the peace during demonstrations over the Israel-Palestine conflict. He pointed to a 2023 incident where 2 people wearing Palestinian flags walked through a pro-Israel rally. Sandy Springs is home to one of the largest Jewish communities in the metro Atlanta area.
It was an Israeli event, and we had 2 individuals that had the Arab headdress on with 2 Palestinian flags that walked into the crowd. They weren't saying anything to them, they weren't approaching them, but they were just walking through that event. The feeling of the community out there was outrage, and my guys had to grab them pretty quick and get them out there. This ordinance will help us do that.
So you would arrest someone just for walking through a group of people?
Yes. If they were walking with a Nazi flag, with this ordinance, we would arrest them. Palestinian flag, we would arrest them.
Less than 50 days later, and after pushback from the American Civil Liberties Union, Sandy Springs City Council unanimously voted to repeal the ordinance.
However, the city still finds itself in a battle over free speech with a local newspaper.
Investigative reporter Brendan Keefe joins us now to explain why and how the city's restriction stems from an effort to stop anti-Semitism in the community.
Lee and Tisha, during that April meeting where Sandy Springs created the now repealed 8-foot buffer zone, it also approved an ordinance in place today. That prohibits the delivery of uncontracted for literature, such as pamphlets and paper ads, to homes between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. in Sandy Springs. City leaders say that's in response to neo-Nazi groups using the cover of night to distribute anti-Semitic flyers. However, that applies to everyone, including a free local newspaper, which was forced to change its operation as it's locked in a bitter lawsuit with Sandy Springs. In a sprawling Atlanta suburb, some free speech is limited to the time of day. Publicly speaking out against the measure, former TV reporter Mike Pachenik, even though his family received anti-Semitic flyers at their Sandy Springs home.
A neo-Nazi group littered my neighborhood's lawns, including my own, with hate-filled leaflets seeking to sow fear in the Jewish community. Why not just charge somebody or write them a ticket for littering? Why paint with a broad brush and preclude legitimate media outlets from delivering their newspapers overnight?
The Sandy Springs Crier is now forced to deliver its free newspaper after 7 a.m. Any earlier would be a misdemeanor.
limit solicitation and the delivery of uncontracted for literature into the residential neighborhoods between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m.
If App and Media puts something at the end of someone's driveway at 6:50 a.m. and someone calls and reports it, then what happens?
The police will come and handle whatever needs to be handled.
Hearing the city attorney say that if someone were to deliver the Sandy Springs crier, then the police would show up and handle it.
Carl Appen publishes the Sandy Springs Crier. The newspaper was already suing the city for withholding public information from police incident reports. What is in these incident reports that they're not giving you?
Literally almost every single thing that actually is taking place.
Do most cities give you these records?
Every single city gives us these records with the exception of Sandy Springs.
Sandy Springs won a dismissal of the case in Superior Court, but Appen Media appealed to get the case reinstated.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
The item is approved.
They voted on this case a week and a half after the appellate court ruled in our favor.
This is now the law in Sandy Springs. If Appen Media were to deliver their papers at 6 a.m., they're breaking that law.
And if the neo-Nazis now want to deliver their hateful content to my front yard at 7 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning, they can do it.
We reached out to Sandy Springs for comment, and attorney Dan Lee denied our requests. The lawsuit over police records is still ongoing.
Brendan, you've spoken with Appen Media extensively. What do they think motivated this change?
Lee, Appen Media acknowledged that there is a coincidence, at least of timing. A week and a half after Appen Media won its appeal against the city, council members passed an ordinance that directly impacts the paper's operation. Now, Carl Appen from Appen Media said these incidents of anti-Semitic flyers popping up are thankfully rare, but his newspaper is not rare. It's delivered every single Tuesday to every resident in Sandy Springs, with the exception of people who choose to opt out.
During that meeting, there was also talk about banning this kind of speech altogether.
Correct. The argument was that no matter whether it was a free newspaper or anti-Semitic literature, the paper piling up on doorsteps litters the city. However, when they looked at the case law, they found a different city in Georgia tried the same thing decades ago. In 1999, the Georgia Supreme Court ruled it was unconstitutional for the city of Sylvania to ban the distribution of free printed material to homes, citing violations of freedom of speech and freedom of the press.
And finally, Brendan, how has this ordinance changed operations for the Sandy Springs Crier?
Publisher and CEO Hans Appen tells me they're managing the situation as best as they can. However, he says those new hours do impact their delivery drivers and their ability to work other jobs, particularly during the day. He says the new hours also make it more difficult to retain and recruit new delivery staff. Appen does mention so far there haven't been any accidents as a result of delivering newspapers during the day when the traffic is heavier.
This isn't the first time the government has stepped in to regulate laws surrounding protest. Since 2017, state and federal lawmakers have enacted 55 bills the International Center for Not-for-Profit Law says restrict the right to peacefully assemble. For example, at least 4 states have laws that limit liability for drivers who hit protesters with their vehicles. And at least 11 states increased fines and created new penalties for protesters who interfere with traffic.
Still ahead.
He was the kid that helped out the kids that maybe was sitting by themselves.
After death, one teen's selflessness lives on. We reveal how his parents help supply schools in their area with a life-saving tool.
Plus, we see a different side of one of America's most iconic symbols of freedom.
Sometimes it's really hard to look at the truth and we steer away from it. That's the stuff we should care about because this is our country.
As we explore the grittier side of Route 66.
It can happen in an instant and take a life. Cardiac arrest happens when the heart's electrical system malfunctions and the heart stops beating. One of the only ways to save someone suffering cardiac arrest is cardiac pulmonary resuscitation, or CPR.
In this case, bystanders can use chest compressions to keep the blood pumping through the victim's body until emergency responders arrive.
Every minute survival goes down by 10%. So you really got to do action right away. And so call 911 and then get on the chest and start doing hands-only CPR.
Doing a great job. Immediate CPR can double or triple a person's chances of survival after cardiac arrest.
A majority of people will have cardiac arrest outside the hospital, and the majority will have it at home. So if this happens to you, it most likely will be someone you know, you love, and really care about.
A 2022 survey found while 90% of Americans believe CPR can help save lives, 40% say they're not comfortable initiating the life-saving procedure. A Michigan couple wants to change that statistic after their son died from cardiac arrest 2 weeks shy of his 15th birthday. Reporter David Andrews shows us how they're helping to bring life-saving training and technology to schools across their states.
14-year-old Everson Giles, football player, band member, on student council, and the wrestling team.
He was the kid that helped out the kids that maybe was sitting by themselves.
In the eyes of his mom, Laura, Everson, also quite the artist.
And so he made this.
And author.
He wrote a really great book called Everson Giles' Guide to Being Awesome.
6 simple rules for how to be a good human. Number 5, help people if they are hurt or if they're sad, would have special significance on July 24th, 2017.
I just got a phone call at about 8:30 in the morning, and they said, please come here. Everson is passed out and the ambulance is on the way.
That ambulance was coming here to Grand Ledge High School. Everson was at football practice just a month away from starting high school when he went into sudden cardiac arrest. Everson was hurt.
I just went there and walked in and saw paramedics.
And people were helping.
Everyone was there doing the right thing.
In 2017, Grand Ledge High School was a My Heart Safe School, meaning automated external defibrillators, AEDs, were on site, and the coaches were trained in CPR. But it wasn't enough to save Everson's life.
Even though everything was right, even though we passed away, there's still that piece that he had the best chance of survival he could have gotten.
Everson didn't have any genetic abnormalities. His heart was strong.
Like an athlete's heart, so it was like a strong muscle.
In their sadness, the Giles drew emotional strength and a sense of peace from their belief that Everson's passing was part of his purpose.
Bringing the awareness of CPR, bringing the awareness of AED, bringing the awareness of sudden cardiac arrest.
You know, schools in Brighton didn't have AEDs, and within that week of Everson passing away, they had them at the football field, they had them at the baseball field, they had them installed in the school.
8 years later, all schools have them. Michigan law now requires public schools to develop cardiac emergency response plans and train athletic coaches in CPR and AED use.
Now that they are, and we know that they're within just a minute or two of every location, it gives everybody else the sense of peace to know that there is something there that can help.
Yeah, that's him right there in the middle.
Pictures and memories.
His smile, I feel like it's infectious.
Have turned into a mission to share Everson's shining light, something they call the Ev effect.
The effects of what his spirit is bringing and all the different things that's happening is creating this wonderful ripple.
And a wave of awareness about the life-saving impact of CPR and AEDs.
We know by statistics and everything that this is the right thing, that awareness needs to be done.
To know that everybody did everything right just means that this is how it's supposed to be.
We definitely do our best to continue on with his spirit.
Educating others on CPR and AEDs also became a very personal mission for former men's basketball coach Mike Garland. During his time at Michigan State University, Garland helped coach his team to 19 NCAA tournaments and 1 national championship. In 2022, Garland experienced cardiac arrest while driving and crashed into a tree. Video shows 2 men stopping to perform CPR and the deputies who took over in a race to save his life. The rescue prompted Garland to create Champions of the Heart, a nonprofit that offers CPR and AED training for free. Still ahead, giving kids the confidence to overcome any obstacle.
For our city kids, It is a great opportunity for them to come here and to expose themselves to something like this here.
We take you to the camp that invites kids to explore the great outdoors.
But first, a side of an iconic American symbol you don't often get to see.
He just documented, how they live their lives, and I think that that's just a really rare thing to see.
We take you to a gallery offering an up-close look at a different side of Route 66.
U.S. Highway 66, popularly known as Route 66, is an American symbol of freedom, adventure, and nostalgia. Spanning from Chicago to Los Angeles, its 2,400 miles of road cuts through 2/3 of the country.
In 1926, the Bureau of Public Roads launched the first federal highway system, and Route 66 was born from existing local, state, and national roads. The mother road quickly provided a lifeline for commerce, connecting communities and giving merchants a way to transport their goods.
But beyond the vintage cars, neon signs, and postcards is a different story to tell.
Reporter Mason Carroll takes us to the gallery offering a glimpse at history.
A photo is worth 1,000 words. This photo of an exhausted man covered in car grease smoking a cigarette shows what life was really like on Route 66 during the early 2000s.
So this exhibition of Route 66 is decidedly not nostalgic. It really shows off the humanity of Route 66.
These photos are part of the new Route 66 Alternative Perspective Gallery at the Coconino Center for the Arts. Marketing director Julie Sokol says it's an exhibit unlike any other.
A lot of what the country will be seeing in the next year are nostalgic, fun, cute, poppy scenes, but this exhibition brings a little more reality to the gritty backstory.
It features two artists. One, Wes Pope, who used pinhole exposure with soda cans to capture images like this. The other is Pulitzer Prize-winning photographer Edward Keating. His daughter says this gallery shows a decade's worth of photography on 66, focusing on real people.
Sometimes it's really hard to look at the truth and we steer away from it. That's the stuff we should care about because this is our country. He documented a really important time in history.
He died in 2021. He also experienced real life on 66 in Flagstaff.
He had a major drinking problem and woke up one morning in Flagstaff and just realized he had hit rock bottom. And it was there in Flagstaff that he decided to rebuild his life.
She says her father's legacy lives on when people look at his pictures and the real side of Route 66.
He just documented, how they live their lives. And I think that that's just a really rare thing to see. So I just encourage people to really process that. And I think a lot of people see themselves in these photographs too.
In 2026, Route 66 will celebrate its centennial. Still ahead, a new perspective when it comes to embracing your wild side.
In my opinion, I think it's wonderful for me to come out here because, we don't really get this as much at school.
We take you to the camp, giving some kids their first up-close look at Mother Nature. Many of us remember as kids playing outdoors with friends for hours until the sun went down.
I knew every inch of my neighborhood. We would get on our bikes and go ride through the woods and eventually come back home.
Eventually come back home? Did you do any bad things?
No, we were good kids.
You were good kids?
We were good
Y'all
kids.
believe that?
Yeah.
Huh? I was too. I just played sports, that's all.
Yeah.
All right, according to the National Wildlife Federation, each day a typical child in the U.S. spends as few as 30 minutes playing outdoors.
For families who live in major cities, getting up close to nature can be a challenge.
That's where a nonprofit steps in, offering a camp for kids to get in touch with their wild side.
Reporter Caroline Hecker takes us there.
Nestled in the woods of southern Illinois, opportunity awaits. For many of these students, this overnight camping trip will be full of firsts, and it's all thanks to Gateway to the Great Outdoors.
With technology and just the world we live in, they don't really get outside as much as we used to, and a lot of them don't really have that drive or crave to explore in nature.
The first start with the bus ride to camp. The kids loaded up from Nance Elementary in St. Louis, driving 2 hours east to Camp Manitowoc in Benton, Illinois.
Oh, look at that!
First up, the opportunity to learn how to kayak, the pure excitement
I'm in my first boat!
written all over their faces.
Keep going!
Apprehension quickly transforms into confidence as they enjoy a paddle around the lake for the first time.
For our city kids, it is a great opportunity for them to come here and to expose themselves to something like this here. All I hear, I never been in here, I never been in the woods, I never been out there on the boats and things like that.
I think now more than ever, these students need an outlet like GGO. They need adults and mentors who care about them. They need safe spaces in nature.
You have to know a few things.
The outdoor adventures also translate onto paper.
Like this?
District principals report a 10% increase in science test scores among students in the program.
It just lets you figure out many different things that you haven't usually done.
But GGO says the most powerful moments don't happen on paper. They happen here in the woods, as exposure welcomes curiosity.
In my opinion, I think it's wonderful for me to come out here because, we don't really get this as much at school.
These students seeing the world differently, thanks to confidence, curiosity, and connection in the great outdoors.
And that's it for us on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Tisha Powell.
And I'm Lee Zurich. Thanks for watching.
On the next Investigate TV Plus, she made it all the way to 12th grade and couldn't read a single word.
They were just passing us back then.
We uncover how low literacy rates in adults can impact every taxpayer.
This is a solvable problem, right? We know how to teach people to read.
And the solutions that could help millions of Americans.